welcome to the live taping of the Indian Travel No podcast powered by Avis Budget Group. My name is Jamie-Lee Abtar, your host, and today I'm super delighted to have got in my seat Anthony Daniels, who is the general manager of Hurtigruten. When I first met Anthony, actually, I heard a little bit of your story and I was like, I need to get you on my podcast, please.
Excellent.
So I'm really thankful that you were able to make it here today. And to get started, can you give us a little bit of a background on how you got into the travel industry? And we actually go a step further back. Before you got into the travel, were you always in travel? Was travel always that kind of the destination? Or did you kind of fall upon the travel industry? Just give me a little bit of a backstory on Anthony.
It's great to be here, and thank you for the invite. So my story really is I fell into the travel industry,
Okay.
being brutally honest. I was at school, I loved sport, I did okay at school, but I was never really into one subject. There was nothing that really stood out. And the one thing I did and my family loved to do is travel.
Okay.
So when you're talking to the careers advice and not knowing what route to go in, they said, go to college. There's an opportunity in the travel industry. And this is quite a few years ago. But they said there's an opportunity in the travel industry. There's a whole plethora of jobs and opportunities. So I spent a couple of years at college studying travel and tourism. I didn't have a university or a grammar school background, and then you just kind of follow the journey. And apparently, and I don't actually recall this, my first day at college, my lecturer reminded me when I first joined the cruise industry, I was the only one in his class that stood up and said, when I finish this course, I want to get into the cruise industry.
Really?
So I don't know where that came from. I'm not too sure, but there's obviously a destiny, if you want to call it that.
Oh, fantastic. So their first kind of role in travel was within the cruise industry, or was it something else and then it led to the cruise industry?
No, I went to business travel first. I was working in a business travel agency in Covent Garden. I was there for 18 months. At the time, obviously a lot of my friends were from college were in different industries within travel. And I remember seeing a job advertised for, it was Royal Viking Line back then, for a reservations consultant, and just straight away I felt I've just got to go for this. So I joined that group actually with Norwegian Cruise Line, and then that's been it pretty much. I joined them when I was about 19 years old, so a very long time ago, and been through very many different cruise lines and parts of the industry.
Okay. And did you join, so when you joined Hurtigruten, did you join as the GM, or did you kind of work your way up to that point?
No, I joined as head of sales. I was head of sales for a previous cruise line, and I'd worked for a travel agency, a cruise specialist agency, as the commercial manager. And then I joined Hurtigruten. It's been 7.5 years now as a head of sales, so I headed up the sales team.
The sales team.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Hurtigruten for those who might be in the audience that might not be familiar with the brand. Can you give us your 60-second?
I'll try. It's very difficult. There's a lot to cover.
Yeah.
Next year, Hurtigruten's 130 years old. We started out as a service for the Norwegian government and the outer reaches of Norway.
Okay.
And actually, it was set up to go to the far north and do like a cargo and a postal service for the outer reaches. And we still do that today. We still offer that service for the Norwegian government. We have daily departures from Bergen, and it's a 12-day round trip to go up to the Russian border and back again. But really, as a future of the company, it's changing massively. Even in the 7.5 years I've been at the company, and every day is amazingly different. So actually, our future state as a company, we're still going to have the heritage. We still want that coastal program, but actually, we're now putting a lot more time, money, and effort to grow our expedition offering. Already, we take more people to Antarctica than anybody globally. And today actually marks our 20-year anniversary for the first time one of our ships went to Antarctica. But really the way that we're growing as a brand is very much still investing in the coast of Norway, but Antarctica, the Arctic, a lot of polar areas. We're now into Galapagos, and our future, and there's a lot of new news coming next year, and obviously I can't go into too much detail. But
no sneak peeks today?
Not just yet, no, I'm afraid, not yet. I may get shot if I tell too much at the moment, but all I'm saying is that we're not just going to be about polar, it's going to be a lot more about warm water and worldwide destinations.
Interesting. Looking forward to hearing all about that when it happens. Okay, influence section is really all about getting a deeper understanding as you as a leader as well. And it would be great to hear a little bit more about your role and what a day in the life of Anthony looks like. You give us a little sneak peek into your day.
There's different ways of answering this, and this is being recorded, so I'll be very careful. It is fantastic. In all honesty, some days are just chaos. Just literally, you're lurching from meeting to meeting and decision to decision. But actually, the wonderful thing is I've got such a good team around me, from a UK and a EMEA team, but also the global teams that we're growing. That actually you're getting pulled into different conversations. So one day we might be just focusing on how do we grow a certain product within the UK, or how do we grow our understanding of the EMEA market and our Europe, Middle East offering. But then at the same time, then I'm looking at what the future of the brand's going to be from a corporate point of view. So in the end, you kind of feel that you're a bit of the pivot between head office and your team.
Yeah.
But what you've got to do, and certainly the way I feel, is I've got to inspire my team to be able to empower and then get on with their jobs without me becoming a barrier. So there's always a constant support that you offer them, but give them the confidence to go and do the decision making.
Oh, sounds great. Career highlight. You've had a really interesting career in the cruise industry. Is there any particular aspect of it that is like a standout career highlight moment for you?
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and there's lots of different ways of answering it. There's some personal experience. I used to work for Cunard, and I was there when they named Queen Mary 2 with the Queen, which someone told me that day was 18 years ago, and it broke my heart. It's such a long time ago.
Wow.
But let's not get into that. Then there's other career highlights of personal, when I've been promoted from regional sales to head of sales, then now head of sales to general manager. But as a team experience that I thought was one of the proudest moments was a few years ago, just before COVID, the UK team got recognised as the Market of the Year from Hurtigruten, and that's the first time in their history that they actually managed to do that, and that's born out of revenue growth. So when I first joined at the company, it was in quite a transition mode, and obviously the UK was heavily focused on one or two products, and it wasn't really punching the right weight. But now we've kind of at a point that we're now, not only did we win that award just before COVID, we've also now been identified within the company as one of the areas of significant growth. So that's only going to come from the foundation that we've created from a UK office. So yeah, incredibly proud of that.
Oh, that's fantastic. Since we've been talking a little bit about people, this is a little bit off script, but a question around like those in the audience who are like aspiring leaders in their organizations, around like people management. I find that to be like a tricky, sticky area. Any tips around like managing teams and just overarching like tips that you can offer to anybody who's has responsibility for a team, might be struggling a little bit with how to manage different personalities and different people?
It is a challenge, and actually some days that's the toughest part of it, without being rude to any of the team. They're all amazing people, but you do have to be kind of aware of personnel influences outside of work. You can't just expect them to shut up at the door, and certainly more so now with the hybrid and home working and that whole balance. And I mean, I suppose from my journey, I've got 4 children, so 4 very different personalities, so you learn from that. I've helped run football and rugby teams and lots of different personalities. And in all honesty, if you haven't had that experience, go and get some training. Because if you can understand people's personalities and what triggers them and what kind of motivation they need, it's a real skill. It's a real strong tool to be able to have. So if you don't have that as a natural kind of being, then absolutely get some training, because there are experts out there that can help you spot and monitor good and bad, and who needs an arm around them, who needs a kick up the backside, and who just needs to be let and get on with it. That's really good. From my perspective as well, having just joined like a global company, do you have any tips in terms of how you can kind of get recognized for your work within the obviously you've worked your way up through like Hurtigruten and different brands. Is there any like particular advice that you could offer in terms of how you can be recognized within your company, especially bigger global companies? Yeah, that's also quite a challenge, and I think you've got to become your own self-PR.
Okay.
And a lot of people struggle with that. It's not easy kind of bigging yourself up and going, look how good I am. And there's a very fine line between having some PR and confidence to being kind of over the line and kind of a little bit too in front of people's faces. But the one thing I'd always suggest is if you've got an opportunity to, whether it's an internal conference, whether it's a external conference, and come into places like this, put yourself in front of people. Just constantly be available to do things and be adaptive. If it's actually not the job that you've employed to do, and they're setting up a committee, internal committees like sustainability or social or whatever it may be, just get involved. The more you get involved and the more people say how you work and what your personality is like, then that starts to kind of trigger in other people. And for myself as a leader, if I see people that are engaged with non-work specific campaigns or whatever it may be, already you're like, I like their attitude, I can see what they're doing, what can I do to help them on that journey, and people will look at that.
And what do you think are some of the biggest factors, or one of the factors that help you to be like successful in your career?
Wow. I think it's probably me, I suppose my upbringing, my family. My parents are very driven, they're very focused, but they're very humble. And I think that helps in today's world. You've got to be very understanding of the market and the people and all the different pressures that we all have. So I think from the way I treat things is I look at my father and my mother about how they used to just dig in and do things and just stay busy, just keep active, keep constant, and it's served me well. You know, as I said, I didn't come from a university or a kind of a sixth or grammar school kind of education, but you constantly keep busy, keep fighting, and keep putting yourself out there. I mean, the roles I got from the promotion to general manager, the promotion to head of sales, was because I went after it. I saw the opportunity and said, I want that job. What do I need to do? What do you need to see from me to get that role? You might not be ready at that time, but again, it's showing willing desire.
That initiative as well, and you're going out there, you're getting the advice, like what do I need to do to get to this point, which is really fantastic. Let's talk a little bit, let's go into like the insights bit of the podcast. What's keeping Anthony up at night? Good or bad? Good or bad? Any particular trends, anything you see happening in the industry that's keeping you awake?
That's, again, very loaded. No, but actually, do you know, I tend to try not to let anything keep me awake at night.
Which is a good thing. What's playing on your mind?
No, but I think at the moment it's really the consistency from the market with regards to booking and cash flow. So if we're looking at the here and now, we've got amazing growth opportunities at Hurtigruten. We are recruiting up to 200 people in the London office and loads of different opportunities there. Whilst at the same time, we're trying to manage what the cash flow is and consumer confidence. So it's a real kind of balancing act of, do you go? Do you hold? How long's this current business that's doing really well? We started, since August, we've had a really good trend of revenue intake, but how long is it going to stay? You know, we were so used to being able to really nail when kind of peaks and troughs of the industry were going to be. Now we just don't know. So it's knowing when to invest and when not to invest. Have we missed an opportunity or have we hit it right? I would say that at the moment is kind of the here and now, whilst at the same time, because of this significant growth we're doing in staffing, is making sure the current team that we've got that have been with us during COVID, before COVID, feel as important as the new people coming in. And that's quite a tough challenge at the moment, and we're getting there. But those are probably the two things.
That keeping you. And you said you're employing up to 200 people in your UK office.
We are, yes.
Okay, you're going to get bombarded after this.
I know,
and
that's not a problem. More than happy with that, because hopefully there's talent out there that wants to join us.
Yeah, I'm sure it would be a great opportunity, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And you guys won the best specialist cruise line at the TTG Awards recently.
Yes.
How was that feeling of being recognized?
We've been lucky this year. We've won, I think it's 4 awards now year, all within that area of the specialist cruise line and sustainability as our core. And sometimes some companies look at awards of, it's nice to have, but is it important? But actually for us, it's an endorsement of the work that we're doing. And what's really nice to see is some of these awards are voted by the consumer or by trade, and it's not courted by us. We don't go out with a big marketing campaign, vote for us. So they're the ones that really mean a lot when you see actually it's the work that we're doing, the message that we're sending out, the great work the sales and the marketing teams are doing that actually is resonating with the consumer and the trade to go, actually, we are doing the right thing. So, yeah, we're really proud. We've had a great year. A couple more awards ceremonies to go yet. So,
you still got a few more to go before the end of the year.
Hoping for a clean sweep this year.
And anything new? What's new? What should we look out for from Hurtigruten? Well, outside of their big recruitment drive that you have coming up, anything new that you can talk about that we should look out for?
Yeah, I mean, next year there's going to be a lot of change, and I kind of alluded to it earlier, and it's going to be some really significant changes for us as a company, and not just from a destination point of view, but actually a brand and a concept of actually how we're going to move forward as a company. The wonderful thing that we've got, we're owned by a venture capitalist company, and they've been with us for quite a few years now. Usually the trend is they sell you on for a profit. Obviously COVID came in, and we came out of COVID incredibly strong as a company, to the point that TDR Capital, the owners, actually now look at us as a new investment opportunity because they've seen the future that we're going on. I'm fully aware that I've not answered the question with specifics.
Yeah, but it's just fine.
And that's the reason why
I see you skirting around it, but that's fine.
No, but all I'll say is there's going to be a lot of news from us in the next year. And it's coming fast.
Okay, it's coming fast. We've got to just keep watching you, watching you. Let's talk a little bit about impact. And my question is around your We2 partnership. I was really excited to see that. So tell us a little bit about that partnership, how that all developed, and share.
Yeah, so We2 Foundation is Dwayne and Phoebe. They're a couple of amazingly inspirational people that they've set up this charity that their aim is to inspire youngsters, teenagers, whatever age group really, to say that actually the world is open to them. So if they're coming from an underprivileged area, it doesn't mean that you can't go to Antarctica, just as an example. So what they've done is set up this charity where everyone who puts money into it then then pays for these guys and these girls to go on trips. So what day are we on now? Tuesday. So on Sunday night we had a group of 10 older teenagers, young adults, fly to Antarctica
from the UK. From the UK,
yeah. And they've come from all different backgrounds. They were nominated by their local communities for the work that they do, whether it be sustainability, whether it be diversity, whether it be mental health, all of these different things that these amazing kids do in their local community. And what we wanted to do was say, if you from your background can get to a place like this, a destination like that, then it's open to anybody. And really what we want them to do is come back and be our advocates. We want them to spread the word to go, you may live in this environment, but I've just been to Antarctica and actually everybody can achieve that. So it's an amazing opportunity for the foundation, and we see this as step one. We want to do more and more with them in the future because, as I say, Dwayne and Phoebe are amazing people. So it'll be on certain news channels. I think BBC One Show, and I think there's a few like Sky are going to be covering it. So watch out. We'll share it via social media and we'll link you into it so people can buy.
Definitely. I think it's such an amazing initiative. Having, I do a lot of work within the DEI space and going into colleges and speaking to young people who just can't fathom the idea, especially if they come from an underprivileged background, can't fathom the idea of actually going on a cruise to Antarctica or even a trip to somewhere like in Europe. So I think it's such a great opportunity that you're providing for these individuals, to make a difference in the world. I really think that's a fantastic initiative. And talk a little bit about your sustainability initiative. I know you've got a couple. Your plan is to be the first zero emission ship for Coastal Express by 2030. You've got that, and you've got your Euro 100 million green upgrade. Tell us, how does that all link in? Tell us a little bit about what your plans are as it relates to sustainability and cruise lines.
I think as a company, the heart of everything we do has got sustainability at it. And it's an area that every facet that we look at, whether it's how the ships operate and what fuel we do and don't use, the fact that we've got 2-3 hybrid ships now within the fleet, the fact that we set goals about our sustainability and make them very measurable, very short term, so we don't say, we're going to achieve that in 30, 40, 50 years time. And just as an example, when we first announced that we were going to go get rid of the single plastic on board the ships, we made the announcement in the March, and by the May it happened. And even to the point that any...
That's a quick turnaround.
Exactly, but then that's the ethos of the company. So all of these areas, and what we're starting to understand is we've got to we've got to understand what it means to the trade and what it understands to the consumer. There's a lot of talk about sustainability. There's a lot of very technical words, and it's very difficult for us to inspire the travel industry to say to their consumers, this is the reason why you go with this company. So we're taking a bit of a step back, certainly from a sales and marketing point of view, to go, what does it actually mean, and how can our experts that are our trade partners share that kind of information as well. So yeah, I mean, all the fuel that we've been looking at, the fact that we're looking in kind of the ship-to-shore technology.
Yes.
So when the ships are in Norway at the moment, at many of the ports, we turn the engines off, technically
plug
it
them in.
because it's better for the environment there. And we're looking at how we can scope that out in other markets that we've got ships based year-round. So for instance, Dover, we've had a look at it, Hamburg, we're having a look at it, and we're constantly moving
the dial
and we're getting
forward.
the bonds, and we're getting the sustainability credentials outside of the travel industry. It's saying, actually this is a company you've got to follow.
Okay, this is really important for, especially for the consumers now, I think. As we get ready to wrap up, before we go to Q&A, I've got some fun questions to ask you. At least I think they're fun.
Let's see.
And we get some really interesting answers, honestly. The first one is, if you weren't Anthony Daniels, MD, Hurtigruten, what career do you think you'd love to explore?
I mean, if you'd have asked me that 50 years ago...
Are you going to say footballer? Are we going to have another footballer?
No, I enjoyed football. I wasn't that bad, but it was never going to be a career for me. I think at the moment, actually, and I didn't really know how to answer this. Obviously, you kind of sent me a note before and said, just consider this one. Yeah. And actually, something I've just started to do, and I know that you're aware of it, is male allyship, mentoring, and it's something that I've been doing some training and presentations at college and universities as well to the travel and travel trade kind of schools and groups. And actually, that's something I've really got a passion in, and if I can use my experience of the industry, then that would be it. If that doesn't work out, then I'll try and get back into rugby.
I can see you being a mentor. It's such a, honestly, the program, the allyship program, is such a great, it's amazing program that kind of just connects you with, with male leaders within the travel and tourism industry, and it's run by the Women in Travel CIC. So definitely check it out. They have some amazing leaders there that you can be paired with. And last one, is there any particular person whose career inspires you, and why?
But other than yourselves,
we've had varying, other than myself. Oh no.
I mean, I suppose this may be a bit of a cliche, but I do look at my family, because they're a constant. And, my wife's in the travel industry. My eldest son is now in the travel industry, and it's just great to see how they're doing and how well and how successful they are. But again, for me, sometimes it's not about the big iconic leaders of the industry. It's those that have kind of followed a similar path, that constantly push, constantly find that next opportunity and actually go out and find it. So these may not be kind of public names that you go, actually, I know who that person is. It's I've seen their career path, and actually for me, they're like, that's an inspiration. It makes me carry on pushing myself as well.
Fantastic answer. Love that. Do we have any questions from the audience? Yes, one lady right here.
I thought I got away with it.
No.
Hi, Anthony. That was really, really great. Thank you for that. It's lovely to hear how you developed early on in your career. If you could go back then, what one piece of advice would you give your younger self based on what you know now?
I think actually what it would be is, what I've learned now is push yourself harder when you're young. In the first few years of my career, I had a great time. I did really well within kind of the sales environment, but I kind of stuck very much to that as a route. And I think I've now learned about man management. I've now commercial marketing. I've got the whole kind of portfolio. But in those early days, I was very focused on sales. So I think diversify your own skill set very quickly. That was probably the early thing I would say. Don't be focused just on one part of work.
Any other questions?
I might be getting away with it.
Yeah, it seems like it. It seems like it. Oh, there's one right there.
Hi there. So you were talking about sort of being a leader and obviously inspiring your team and making sure that somebody, like I said, needs an arm around them, or finding that a unique approach to everybody. Given, I would assume you have quite a large team. How do you find time, and how do you actually make sure that you do find that way to approach and tailor your management style, I guess, to all of your employees?
Yeah,
a good one.
It's a great question. Thank you. That the time sometimes is the challenge, absolutely, because we're so busy during the day with meetings and interviews as we're doing here. But for me, sometimes I can't always cover that myself, so I make sure that I empower my management team to also be able to carry that on. But at the same time, I will drop notes to individuals that are within their teams to say, I'm still here, if you need a chat, if you want to send me a text. There's so many ways of communicating now. It's being available is the biggest thing. And the good thing is people know, and my team, the whole team know that I might not be available at that point, but they'll also know that in a couple of days, a week, I will absolutely get back in touch with them. So it's making sure they know when you're available, and two, that you will get back in touch, and that consistency.
Fantastic. Actually, that brings up a question for me before we go back to the audience. It's like around balance, because you mentioned a family. I think you said 4 kids.
Yep.
How are you managing that kind of work-life balance? If that does exist, I'm still to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, my wife and I are very lucky. We've got very engaged parents.
Okay.
So the grandparents are very good at looking after the kids. I mean, out of the 4, my youngest is 10, and then you've got 17, 19 and 24. So the older ones look after themselves, but they still need you. They still need that kind of time with you. And that balance between my wife and I and the kids and the home life is very difficult. But I've got 2 mobile phones, and honestly, the reason being, one's my work phone. So if it gets to 6 o'clock, I'll switch off and leave it on my work desk. So it then doesn't distract me at night if I'm sitting with the kids or doing whatever. I don't see the emails and messages ping up. I'll actually distance myself from it. I may check in later on when we're in bed or whatever, but I've had to kind of create that space, because otherwise work, certainly with the hybrid nature, can be so consuming now that I absolutely guarantee to every single person, make sure you switch off, get some time away from the emails, because it can just literally take over your life.
Yeah, it does. Any other questions before we wrap up? It's one question.
Hi there, thank you so much. It's been a wonderful chat.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask, maybe as a good wrap up, what are the 1 or 2 things that you're most proud of in your career?
I think it's been really nice just recently. There's been a couple of award ceremonies internally. Not that I won anything, but one of my team sent me a note saying, I actually voted for you for this category, and actually sent me through what they'd written. And honestly, it's one of the loveliest things I've seen written. And then someone else is one of the team the other day. And so these are quite small in certain aspects, but it kind of really empowered me, kind of really fired me back up again. Not that I was down, but you know what I mean? It gives you another energy, it gives you another boost. And again, someone else one of my team put up on LinkedIn the other day about, I did a chat last week, a panel discussion, and just his words on this LinkedIn post was fantastic. It's so lovely to see that I'm having that inspiration on my team around me. So that kind of the recent wins I've kind of really taken.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Anthony, for joining the Indie Travel No podcast. And you guys can find more on YouTube. It will be available on the WTM YouTube page as well. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you.
Thank you.